And I know I'm just supposed to be happy doing my little part, but it feels like I'm on this endless kind of trap of always kind of behind the eight ball, if you will, of never getting ahead of it. And it feels like things are just getting worse. And that felt like despair, and it was sort of settling in. I realized there was kind of an unhappiness and a sadness about that in the planet.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Witchy Wellness Radio. Again, this is a show you learn how your body and emotions are not in the way, they are actually leading the way. And today we're talking with Holly Copeland. She's a coach, teacher, healing practitioner, writer, and speaker. And as the founder of Heart Mind Alchemy and Heart Mind Alchemy Lab, and former conservation scientist, she unites ancient wisdom and with modern science to empower clients on their path to flourishing and living from unshakable clarity and calm. And her signature program, Awaken-Heal-Breathe, Holly blends sound healing, breathwork, and meditation to guide people out of the muddy waters of the ordinary thinking mind and release the stuck energetic patterns to live in a vibrant, effortless flow. That sounds so juicy. That's all the things that we're about here at Witchy Wellness. Welcome to the show today, Holly. I'm so excited you're here.
Oh, thank you so much, Loren. I'm super excited to be here and excited to talk to you and your guests, your listeners. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just delighted to be here.
Well, I would love to jump on into, you know, we're always still on our hero's journey or heroine's journey, the healing journey. It's a never ending process, which is a beautiful thing. But I would love to hear kind of your own transformational process that kind of maybe led you out of being more in the conservation scientist world into really this alchemist, if you will, helping people transform their own lives.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so my journey began about well, the big shift started about 5 years ago. So leading up to then, I was a conservation scientist working in Wyoming for the Nature Conservancy. And to be honest, I thought that's what I would always do. I went to school for that and studied, and I had what by all rights a dream job. Absolutely. And I was chasing mule deer around the sagebrush and sage grouse and doing all the biologist things that were dreamy in a way. Um, and a couple things were colliding on my path. And one was just a real deep despair for the planet and a feeling like it would never be enough. No matter what I did, like there would never be enough time, money, or resources to kind of quote unquote save the planet. And I had been doing this for 20 years, and I was becoming exhausted by that and this kind of Groundhog Day feeling of waking up each morning and like, here I am again. And here are all the crappy things humans are doing to the planet. And I know I'm just supposed to be happy doing my little part, but it feels like I'm on this endless kind of trap of always kind of behind the eight ball, if you will, of never getting ahead of it. And it feels like things are just getting worse. And that felt like despair, and it was sort of settling in. I realized there was kind of an unhappiness and a sadness about that in the planet. And a feeling too of like, and this is silly because like I've got a loving husband and beautiful children, and I'm living in this small town, and I've checked all the boxes, and I should have made it, and I should be happy, and I'm not. I'm like, what am I supposed to do now? I couldn't possibly have set things up to be better than they are. But I'm like, there's something that feels deeply missing. And so that feeling was kind of was settling in my heart. And then I'd been a spiritual person my whole life, actually. Like I was the kid at 14 who was going to channelings, and my mom was really into metaphysics, and so I was reading Eckhart Tolle when I was a kid and listening to all these things, but none of that had really, I mean, things were well. I don't want to say like my life was a catastrophe, things were well, but there's still that basic feeling of, not knowing what's wrong. and how to get out of it. And then two other things. Well, one other main thing happened, which was I got mold poisoning. So then the universe decided to make me sick by getting mold poisoning. And so what happened was I literally woke up one morning and I had bags under my eyes, like edema on my face, and I had absolutely no knowing of what that was. And, and it continued. And, and I went to doctors who were like, well, do you have any new laundry detergent, or is there something you're allergic to? And I'm like, nothing. I had been paid a lot of attention to things in my house. So I had, organic, clean products, and I'm doing all the things. And yet, like, this thing has shown up. And it took me months for a functional doctor to point out that maybe there was mold in the house, which I was living in Wyoming. So I'm living in a dry environment. It never occurred to me that it could be mold. So I was very sick also. And that kind of this deep, dissatisfaction plus that kind of was forcing a shift, basically. And because of that forcing of a shift, I sort of decided I need to, I think I need to meditate, and I think I need to get out of my head and this kind of crazy voice in my head. And I can't really understand, like, how do we clear up this kind of narrative voice that seems bossy, and I don't really understand how to just be in a kind of peaceful way. And so I went on a meditative journey. I actually first attended a weekend retreat at a nearby meditation center, and then ultimately I actually then started attending a meditation. I got invited to a deep meditation class by somebody I befriended on Facebook, and they were just getting started. And so I started really going in with these two meditation teachers, and I kind of fell down the rabbit hole of deeper knowing of who we really are and what that's all about. And when I came out of that and started to, I did a lot of work in that, but these like kind of deep shifts, and to clear out and understand how to work with, as you so rightly say, like the deep emotions and the deep sadness that they're showing the way. And I started to work with clearing that. I did some plant medicine journeys, so I was clearing things out that way. And then everything was just like, I started to listen. I started to understand how to really be with my own what's going on in here, and how to work with it through the help of some brilliant people. And I became so well, in a sense, everything just started to shift so radically that all of a sudden it was like, I need to share this with the world. And it became my passion to turn that into what I do. And so I gave up my scientist career. I became a coach and a sound healer and did a complete 180. I got a divorce. My whole life changed. That's the nutshell of it.
Yeah, just a complete awakening and transformation, just another day on the job.
Yep, that thing.
And I know so many of us listening can relate, whether we are in the middle of that cocoon transformation or on the other side. You realize, like you said, the universe decided to gift me, we'll say give me or gift me this illness to accelerate my own growth of that tuning inward to remember who you really are. And I love, you kind of named this your step into the flow of life, like your journey from that chaos to the clarity.
Yeah.
How did you, obviously you started taking this meditation class, but how did you in your own practice start to step into your own flow of life? Like, what was the kind of the pivot point for you? You were like, oh, okay, I get this.
Yeah. Well, there were a few sort of key moments, but before I clarify those, I will say that like for me, I call it like my Jedi path journey, where I was like Rey, I have this trail behind my house, and I was running, trail running every morning. It's kind of the way to clear my head. And I was going through so much like deep questioning of like who this really is. And I'm listening to a lot of non-dual awareness teachers. So like Adi Ashanti and Rupert Spira and Locke Kelly, as well as my own primary meditation teacher. And I've just kept, these are words that I will say. I mean, I I heard these things before when I was younger, that like trying is the obstacle, and to give up resistance, but I didn't know how to do that. And but as I did these practices, and especially I was working with a teacher on Dzogchen and Mahamudra from Tibet practices of direct awakening. And so I'm doing these pointings where they point out the nature of awareness as pure, that that our um, natural mind is open and clear and pure. And so I'm doing these practices, and then I would like be on a run, and I would stop at the top of a trail, and I would put on one of Locke Kelly's glimpses, and I would just practice being in awareness and recognizing that everything that's happening are all objects of reality, that our awareness is open and limitless, and then everything else is um as an object. So I started to really work with that subject object duality to relax into being awareness. um and and believe me, there was like a lot of tears and questioning, and like, I don't understand. But I had this teacher who, I mean, I'd literally be on a run, and I would be um like I would stop and text him like, I don't get it, and I'm in tears, and then he would respond back. And it was just a lot of working it out in my own way, I guess. And then Muji was another teacher I listened to a lot of. And one morning, I'll just to give you like some of the breakthroughs. So like one morning I come in from my run, um, and there's dog hair all over the floor. And I'd been listening probably to Muji or Raji Ashanti, and I just look at it, and I just suddenly recognize that it wasn't a problem. That they keep saying over and over again that what's here isn't a problem, and that it was actually the one that creates the problem that is the one that's resisting life. And to see that, and to just be like, it's okay, it's all okay. And it was that, it's that to me, it's that fundamental well-being of place of for me, it was that okayness. Like prior to that, it felt like nothing was really okay. Like I was always trying to make life okay so I could be happy. And those moments of just recognizing it's not a problem. We want it, and it's not something. What I learned is it's not something that you can talk yourself into. It's not something that you can convince yourself of. It's more because that's concept, that's mind. It's like this settling into, it's just all okay. It's all as it is. And then from there, everything opens up, because from there, it's that ground of being is whole, like who we are and what's here is okay just as it is. And then suddenly from there, it's, you still get up and you could clean the floor. It's not that you don't, it's that you drop that it's a problem to solve. And yeah, that's what happened. And it was a lot of those, it's the Tibetans say, it's like first there's the recognition of the ground of awareness as being that our presence is fundamentally whole and complete. And then it becomes the practice of practicing that until, and then it starts to, I think awareness does you don't do awareness, it finds you. it shows itself to itself, as the teachings say. And so there's just kind of a patience and trust, and then, if you stick with it, what I found is by staying on that and keeping that in my awareness, then it showed me the places where I was resisting life and allowed me to open to this greater way of being that's open and expanded and free, that we're already all free.
Well, we can just end the show on that note, I feel. Yeah. And I think, on this awakening path, as people would say, the illness, the crises, everything hitting the fan is just the invitation to take a look inward to that, what's already, thoughts that are already in your head on repeat, the problems, quote unquote, that we think are problems. And what you just so eloquently described is like the awareness finding you when you start to slow down, and it's almost allow yourself to be open for that awareness to come in, and not everything's a problem, closed off, restricted feeling. And it's an unraveling. It's like an onion, you think you've healed or worked through something, and then a month, 2 years, whatever, something comes up and you're like, okay, here's that invitation to go deeper. And I love how you described all these beautiful teachings and teachers who speak of so much of the ancient wisdom that has been passed through humanity for millennia. And I know that you are really good with applying those age-old teachings with this 21st century approach to, I guess it's really mind training and meditation. Really, it's yeah, I think about myself training a dog sometimes. It's how it feels.
That's so funny. Yeah, it is like the little voice in the head mind that we're trying to train ourselves out of is a little bit like training a dog, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. And there's such beautiful kind of new technologies and the science behind the quantum science, for example, behind the interconnected field that we're all a part of. It started with David Bohm and his beautiful work, and people haven't run across him. He's amazing. And the film Infinite Potential just blew my mind for showing how that for his pointing to the way that we are part of this interconnected field in which everything is arising as life is unfolding through us, um a lot of the modern teachers, I'm just love how people like Greg Braden and Joe Dispenza and others are helping pave the way. Jude Currivan, there's so many now who are helping us with that. And I just want to, I love how you talk about emotions as showing us the way. And I want to take this from, yes, it's the mind and it's the Tibetans are so brilliant at showing us the clarity of pure awareness, as that each of us, our natural mind is already awake. It's all that luminous awareness is here. And it feels like a process of waking down to me as well, because what I work with people is how to work with the contraction in our body that arises as pain, which is where our, I think to me, it's like we have to also unravel the knots of that are in our field. And that's where the vibrational work I do is so effective. And there's lots and breath work and things to me, it feels like when we feel, say, anger or sadness arise in our body, it's like a knot, it's like a knot in the body that is waiting to open. It's waiting to expand. And that each moment is an opportunity, if those things are arising, to pause and stop and work with them. They're showing the way, as you I think rightly say. They're like signposts or billboards saying like, look here, I'm here trying to help you open and expand. And rather than fighting those things, we can actually go into them and work with them and allow them to open us up, into our freedom.
And then I think I love how you described the knots. And what came into my mind, because talking about the modern teachers is, I mean, so many people talk about it, but Dr. Joe Dispenza, coherence. Your body is in incoherence. And to be able to open up that knot is allowing the infinite intelligence to basically, my personal vision is wash over me and allow myself to come into more coherence. And then he always plays in his teachings and his retreats I've been to in the past, those like metronome tickers. Yeah. That and they're all be kind of off beat, all incoherent, and eventually they all start to naturally be in coherence. It's like this compounding effect that just kind of ripples off, and it's true. I think the work that people do in the quantum field, and the same thing to coherence, is really like realizing that we are all interconnected. The work that I do for myself not only is just for me, but that's rippling out into consciousness itself, which is just it blows my mind, and also helps our monkey minds wrap ourselves around the fact that not only we can heal, but like how coherence and tapping into the field, we can help other people heal as well through sound healing or other practices. But yeah, I'm such a nerd when it comes to that as well. It's just because we want to know, like you might believe, but that part of your mind, like you start to build that truth and that trust in a different way to actually to practice these things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said. Like my riff on that is like that we think about it like putting on your own oxygen mask first. Like the greatest gift we can actually give our friends and family is to be well ourselves and the world ultimately. And I learned this, this really flipped. If we go back to me as the conservation scientist trying to kind of quote unquote save the world, right? Like I'm trying to do the world so the world will be better. And what I learned is actually the change this change for humanity that we seek actually begins with me. It begins with me letting go of my anger and fear and sadness about the planet, because we're all in this interconnected field. That if I can unravel that sadness within myself, and as I say in one of my meditations, is called falling in love with the world as it is, which is really falling in love with first ourselves as we are, which is the grand kind of compassion and forgiveness to ourselves. That brings that coherence that we bring about in ourselves, ripples through the field, and will ultimately be the change that will help the planet. And if we do that for ourselves, what I also found was that I then have infinite energy to now. It doesn't mean you stop doing whatever, rainforest saving action you want to do, or, helping the local homeless shelter, or whatever your passionate, service to the world is. It doesn't mean you stop doing those things. It means that you don't do them coming from a place of exhaustion and pain and sadness and guilt because, oh my God, everything's so bad, which is where I was stuck in. Was like I was doing those things because I fundamentally felt guilty about how humanity has been treating everything, the world. But if we go in and we're like, if I can undo that guilt and shame within myself, then I come to these things from a place of I'm here ready to help. And the analogy that I like to use, it just feels really concrete. So how this landed for me was like, it's like the house is on fire. We're a firefighter and the house is on fire. And if the firefighters that came to the fire came and said, oh my God, look, that's horrible, like, oh my God, fire, do something, somebody, right? We would all be like, wait, you're supposed to help. You're not supposed to come and be worried, right? It's like that when we come to these things, when we come to try to help, and we're already in a place of pain, right? We expect the firefighter to come to the fire saying, I'm here, I'm ready to help. And so this is that process of how do we each become, I'm here, I'm ready to help. And that's an inner process of undoing our own guilt, shame, sadness. And in order to do that, we have to, that's where that invitation into all this inner guilt, shame, judgment, blame that we each hold is. And that's an inner process. That's not something that we escape by doing the next service-oriented activity. We actually have to look at our own story and our own selves.
I so agree. And for me, it's like alignment first and then the action. It's
Yes.
connecting to the coherence, connecting to the infinite field, whatever word you want to call it, because I know there's very many words for different people. Yeah. And then what feels aligned or what feels true for you in that moment. Like you said, it still might be helping the environment. It still might be the community service you were doing, or it might be different. Or you might view it in a completely different way. So then these opportunities and people and things can just this domino effect can start to unfold in front of you, instead of, like you said, the lack of not enough, or, just like give, and just depletion, right?
Exactly.
You're pulling from the field, as Dr. Joe Dispenza would say, instead of you are generating with the field, if you will. So
exactly. Yeah. It's like you're coming where your cup is depleted and empty, and then you're trying to get out of it by doing something out in the world. And if that's where you find yourself, then to me, that's an invitation to do more work to find the inner wholeness and well-being, and to know that that's what you actually already are. And that's the beauty of, the beautiful sacred teachings, is that we all already are whole. Yeah, it's all okay. Just as it is. It's, yeah. And, and the mind can't get there, right? I can say that. And I know that because my old self was like, what do you mean it's all already okay as it is? How could you? But it's not something you talk yourself out of. It's not a belief. It's actually a deep inner reconnecting with your own true knowing. And that's actually a feeling, a felt sense that each of us is already, we come into the world as loving awareness. We're all basically good, as the Tibetans, one of the teachers says, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. Our nature is fundamentally good. Every single one, every single person listening is a divine whole being. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think just hearing what that is culturally, especially in the West, I think whether you're religious or not, or really it's embedded that we're not born good, if you will. Yeah. This goodness inherent in us. And that's where some of the inner work begins, is unraveling those things of shame and guilt and not good enough. And all of those beautiful teachers. Yeah. To invite us to remember really who we already are. Yeah. And a mantra that I love is it's done. It's already done. Mm-hmm. Whatever I may be working through, it's already there. Just allowing myself to sink into that awareness and let go of the trying and just be the beingness. Yeah. The beingness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then, I think like one of the tools that I discovered, so there's the beingness and knowing, and there are beautiful tools and technologies that help unravel some of those knots. Like I discovered tuning forks, for example, and studied with Eileen McCusick, and I'm a biofield tuning practitioner. And so, I use tuning forks in the field to help free some of that coherence. So those knots that are in our biofield, because we all have a biofield, an energetic field around us. And as Eileen teaches, our traumas are stored as energy or knots in that field. So it's like, I used to think that our mind was, in the brain somewhere, but in fact, scientists have never found memories, a location of memories in the brain, because that's actually not where they're stored. They're stored in the field. And so in biofield tuning, and sound healing, we use tuning forks to help free some, untangle some of those energetic knots. And what I've found is that, they're working with tuning forks every day. I can really feel my energetic body opening and releasing. And so it doesn't have to be talk therapy, but you can actually use these sound healing tools to free some of those, the energies of guilt, shame, and judgment from the field. And that's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I was already going to ask you, and you were able to start to jump into this, how can we use these different things like neuroscience and neurotechnology to really help with that practice, whether it's meditation practice, unraveling those knots like you just described? What are some tips or tools in addition to that we can employ?
Yeah, totally. So let me go to one of the neuroscience geeky ones that I discovered that I loved. So I discovered the Muse headband, which is a headband goes over your head and you can hear your brain waves while you're meditating. And so it's a kind of biofeedback or neurofeedback, where another one is Mendy. It's another one I really like. So those two, Muse and Mendy. And while you put it on your head, and then as you meditate, it gives you feedback. So if your brain is really noisy, if you're in a beta state, then you will hear a lot of, if the Muse, you'll hear a lot of rain. And then as you focus or come into open awareness, however you're guided, then that rain will start to quiet and it'll be, softer and softer and softer. And so for me, like that tool, when I discovered it, was amazing because it actually was teaching me how to shift my brainwaves out of a beta state into an alpha and a theta state. Because prior to that, meditation felt really like I didn't know if I was doing it right. And there was no, like, I had a feeling of like, is this it? Am I doing it? And, through the power of biofeedback, I was actually able to get some feedback on that. And I ended up like doing a long journey with the Muse and tracking my brain waves and watching how through 6, 8, 12 months of meditating with the Muse, how my brain literally became more quiet and more resting in a theta state. So I was able to kind of prove to myself that this really works. Like meditation really works. You know, yeah, and Mendy, same thing, another just great tool where it's a slightly different. It doesn't use EEG. Instead, it looks at the amount of, I believe it's oxygen in the prefrontal cortex. So, but it also sort of helps train you into a more alpha state. So, I'm kind of a geek and a nerd, and I love those, different headsets and things that can help us in the Western world, especially where we don't necessarily have the background for meditation to kind of quickly learn these tools. Yeah, these ancient tools with modern technology. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, I found those things are really helpful. Like you said, to understand and feel the different brainwave states that you're in. I've used heart math technology as well,
Yeah,
which is
it's
heart
another
brain
good one.
coherence. Very easy to use as well. To track similar things is a different way to track. Okay, so you can actually feel when you're connected to the field, or when your focus is open and you switch brainwave states. You actually can be like, train your, oh, this is what it feels like, and this is what it doesn't feel like. And so you get to start to work with that out in the waking world throughout your day. And another tool, I know you also work with breathwork,
Yeah.
is a pulse oximeter.
Pulse
It,
oximeter.
oximeter. Thank you. I was like, that does not sound right. Easy thing to put on your finger to measure your blood oxygen level. So if you are doing a lot of breath retention work, you actually get to, okay, where is my oxygen levels at? Some people can get it below 60, 50, and way below that percentage. It's funny because doing that training, I know like when my brain is stressed, when I am in a state of incoherence, can't hold my breath in the breath retentions, my blood oxygen level does not get below 90%. And
Yeah.
the times that I am more relaxed and really um yeah, just allowing the process to unfold as it is, then I surprise myself at how that actually does feel. And I'm like, is it the chicken or the egg? Because am I already in that state to get to
Yeah.
internally to see these numbers? And I think starting out for me, that was such a helpful tool using those things. And
Yeah.
now it's like I circle back and use them occasionally, but I just, for me, getting addicted to hitting a certain number, or that was almost a program itself. So I had to step away, but just becoming
Yeah.
aware, because it's good to teach us and realize that sometimes these things, like our phone, social media, it can be a tool, or, is it using us? So it's really good to just have the awareness going into these practices when we incorporate anything like technology, to just be aware of our own tendencies and programs.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think of it, it's like they're like training wheels. We're learning to ride the bike and they're the training wheels um for learning to ride the bike. And then ultimately we don't need the training wheels anymore. We know how to ride the bike and we can feel it um and so super useful. I mean, they played a really important role, and I would recommend them to anybody, those kinds of tools, heart math, Muse, Mindy, who are getting going and would like some tools for what does a coherent heart feel like? What does a calm mind feel like? If you don't have any reference point for what that is, then these tools help give you the reference point and the confidence to know that's what that feels like. And then you can be like, okay, now I know what I'm, kind of going for. So yeah, there's so many. People are talking a lot about brain tap. I haven't tried it myself, but I know that's another one that kind of people are really excited about. um, and then there's from the non-biofeedback world, there's just tools to assist us to get into a more coherent state, like one I love is Huso. It's a human sound, and you put headphones on and you put vibratory um, things on your wrists and ankles, and it uses mantra sound to bring your body into coherent state. And all you have to do is just lay there on the bed for 30 minutes. It's awesome. um that one, and then another one what I'm really excited about, that I've got a couple clients who've used and they really love it, is Apollo Neuro. I don't know if you've heard of that one. It's a wrist, so this is in the realm of vibrational tools. So it's a wristband, it kind of looks like a watch, and you wear it. And it was developed by a scientist at University of Pennsylvania for or Penn State, one or the other. And he developed it for PTSD, and because he had a lot of clients with PTSD. And basically it's kind of like wearing a hug on your wrist. It reminds your body, it sends good vibrations literally into your body. And so you wear it 3-6 hours a day. And it has a couple different settings that you program on your phone. They have a great app. But I had one client who's got a lot of anxiety, kind of in stress, and just swears that it helps her feel more calm and relaxed. And he's kind of cool. I'm not remembering the name of the scientist who created it. They're doing scientific research on it and really proving the benefits of this this wristband Apollo Neuro for helping people get out of anxiety. So, really feel like we're in an awesome time right now because there's some really cool tools that can help people make these shifts now, where they don't have to become an expert meditator in order to free themselves from anxiety and fear and stress. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to look into those. I haven't heard of that one either. I'm interested to see. Yeah, you don't have to become a monk, so to speak, to
Yeah.
heal and integrate and to reap the benefits of all this work.
Yeah.
And yeah, on that note, was there anything else, Holly, that you feel called you wanted to talk about or wrap up before we start to close the show out today?
Yeah, well, you mentioned breath work, and I studied the breath of love technique with Julia Mick, and the power of transformational breath work. I'm just so excited about. So, the type of breath work I do and lead people in is like a holotropic breath work, where we do like a fast, deep breathing for about 20 minutes, and then you're guided to, up into like a deeper surrender. And it's just amazing watching, the power of this for the people I work with, if especially to release deeply held stored fears and patterns quickly. I mean, the power of the sessions to help people, do that deep inner release work without having to, take a pill, without having to ingest something. I'm just continually surprised by how amazing the power of the breath is. And it sounds like you've also explored breath work.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. My first experience was at a holotropic event at my yoga studio, and I had no experience with breath work. And walking into that, I was like, what did I just, because it is so powerful. And, that was my first experience where my body really took over and was releasing this stored energy, trauma, emotions, and that moment, I was like, wow, I had no thought or memories pop up in that experience, but my body was physically moving. I was screaming, crying, yelling, feeling all these things. And I
Yeah.
was really just so in awe of the power of just breathing. But as the yogis say, prana is our life force energy. So when we just amp up that life force energy inside of us, energy is going to always vibrate higher. So that denseness is going to naturally get cleared up and out. And that's not only that, my experience with that kind of breath work is a lot of connection with the divine and love after the holotropic breathing is over, had really, really deep connection experiences after that. So it is very helpful for clearing. And there's so many different types of breath work
Yeah.
for different purposes. But all in all, yes, I am a believer.
Yeah. 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 And it does. That's my experience too. It's like you have the release and but it's guiding you, and it
Yeah.
takes you, I mean, we're sort of taking people, and landing is in that place of kind of divine love and surrender, and knowing of, yourself as love, and that each of us is that. And it's super powerful and beautiful, and really accessible too. Like, I guide sessions online, so anybody anywhere in the world can join, and so you don't have to even travel to a
Yes.
expensive retreat to access the benefits of this, which is just the beauty of Zoom and the internet and the interconnectedness, is these tools are really readily available. So I'm very grateful for that work too, and for the power, all the teachers who have shown the way in terms of breath work. Yeah. Um, and like, as you said in your introduction, I think to keep very mindful of, and it's all like this beautiful unfolding journey that never ends, and so in the theme of falling in love with the world as it is, I think it's also like a reclaiming of our that we're here in this embodied form to um that to start to land in the confidence that you're here for a reason, that it's not an accident. Conscious isn't making an accident in you being here, and that you have a beautiful aligned purpose to share with the world, each and every person listening. And, I know that I felt a lot of like in that place of like, there's a big house on fire in the world, a kind of feeling of wanting to escape and someday like, be in the la la land where, where things were better. And that kind of the path of falling in love with the world as it is really a path of getting to reclaim our right to be here and to be joyful while we're here, and to not like wait, apologize for the, shit show that humanity is. um, and and live in the land of if only, but to get to reclaim our joyful right to be here now in joy and happiness and love. I'm really like that feeling. One of the things I talk about is like just landing in a place of unshakable joy, which, where just a feeling of belonging, of the, in the community of humanity, and a feeling of, yeah, of deep, deep acceptance and joy, of that you're here and that there's a reason that you're here,
Yes, I do know. Thank you so much, Holly, for coming on today and sharing your wisdom, your heart, your presence with us today. And how may we, as the listeners, as a huge act of gratitude, be of service and return for you today?
Oh gosh. So I mean, for me to be in service is to take in the message and to just make a radical recommitment to yourself that you are meant to be here, that you have a divine purpose and service in the world, and to feel that fully in your heart, and then spread that to your family. Oh, I'm going to cry. To your family, to your friends, to your loved ones, to everyone that crosses your path. That when you become and know that in your heart, then that's what you radiate into the world. And that's what the world most needs, and that's the greatest service you can do. Me would be to just be that, to feel and know that and be that for all of your loved ones. That's what's gonna heal the world that, that we all so uh as Charles Eisenstein says, that's what's going to bring the beautiful world that we all know is possible, to actually have that become a reality.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was such an honor holding this space with you today. And if you guys were inspired by this, please share this episode with a loved one as well. You never know what this can do to change somebody else's life. If you haven't already, please subscribe and write a review. That helps us so much, not only get Holly's message out, but every single one of our beautiful guest message out, so that we all can do the inner work and just radiate consciousness itself into a beautiful, coherent state. But thank you so much again, Holly, for coming on today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's my great honor.